So this is Sambucus nigra, which is our sambuactin, black elderberry that we make an extract out of. Right, Paul? And
Right, and on the same plant you have some that are mature and some that are quite immature. So you actually can harvest it at different times. Some plants tend to mature all at once, but this one obviously has not. Clusters. I go looking for herbs and walking in the mountains because it is a spiritual boost. It enthuses me. I go out and see the plants in their natural environment. I try to observe them in the spring when they're blossoming. I try to observe them in the fall when they're seeding, to get an idea of what they look like at different stages of their maturity, to be able to see the plants in their natural environment that then I use in either a tea form or a powder form when I treat patients. This is Oregon grape that contains berberine, the same thing that is in golden seal. And as golden seal has become somewhat more endangered, people have turned to Oregon grape as a source of golden seal. And if you just dig down to the root and scrape off the very outer layer, you can see how bright yellow that is. And that is the berberine, or the part of the root that the berberine comes from, and is very good for intestinal problems, is very good for many liver problems. Early on, probably 80% of the medications put on the market were directly obtained from plants. Now, because we have gone to synthesized medications, it may be closer to 25 to 30%. But still, many of the medications that are used had their origin in a plant. And this is a fireweed plant. They call it fireweed partly because after a forest fire, this is one of the very first plants to grow. When it grows and it blossoms, it has a feathery pinkish purple flower, and has been used medicinally, both topically to treat wounds and as a tea. You know, as I go out, and I've gone out by myself and with colleagues, we always take books, okay? Always take different books to help us identify plants that we may not be able to identify. We've actually found plants that are not supposed to be growing in this Intermountain area, and we found them here. And that's very exciting, to be able to find a plant that maybe we discovered first in this area. Let me see that. I think this is valerian, because as you look at it, the leaves come out in groups. There's large ones and small ones. I'm finding that there are many more physicians who are willing to look at herbal medicine. You have two groups. You have the group that's willing to look at it and allow their patients to use them and follow along and see what happens. And then you have the real stalwarts who blindly say there is no useful herbal medicines and are unwilling to even consider their use. This is a wild geranium, often called Richard's geranium. One of the more common names is crane's bill, because as it turns to seed, it produces a projection out that looks like a crane's bill. This is used for a lot of different female disorders, and you'll find it in a lot of the herbal combinations for female problems. When I first started, my goal was to use traditional Western medicine first. And if it didn't work, then I would go to alternative medicine. I quickly learned that people were very accepting of alternative medicine. It was much gentler on the system. It had far fewer side effects. And so it didn't take me very long until I used alternative medicine first. And then if that didn't work, would then use the stronger, more powerful Western medicine. This is yellow sweet clover, and a lot of this whole field was yellow a month ago and looked just like this. It contains coumarins that can thin the blood. Taken in large doses can cause excess bleeding. Taken in smaller doses, that's commonly found in herbal formulas, can help just maintain normal blood flow. It worries me that for 100 years we have assumed that everyone in the country has enough vitamin D because they get out in the sunlight. And it's only been over the last 1 year to 2 years that true research has been done on vitamin D, and it's astounding now the number of people who are deficient in vitamin D, and that when you're deficient in vitamin D, you may have trouble conceiving, your bone health isn't good, it leads to heart problems. That's just one example of Western medicine sort of catching up with alternative medicine, because alternative medicine practitioners have been saying that vitamin D is very important for a long time. Plantain is universal. My son lived in Ecuador for a while and had heard that this plant helped with ulcers, and he sent me some seeds and I put it in my yard, and now I have a whole yard full of plantain. But plantain is very good to help soothe intestinal disorders, and that's probably where it's used most commonly. You know, the thing that impressed me about Solar Ray from the very beginning, the fact that they based their products around the research that had been done, impressed me, as opposed to going out and just guessing what may work for something. I always like to look at the traditional use of herbs, because it's amazing to me how often Native Americans or people in Africa have used herbs for a particular problem, and then when the research is done in the lab, it confirms the fact that it can be useful for that. And so it reaffirms to me that that particular plant can be useful to treat that problem.